She woke up that morning with the usual feeling of dread. Even though she loved school subjects like art and reading, going to school was never easy. She had always been different from other kids. Born with a physical disability, she had to use a walker to move around, and even simple tasks that seemed ordinary to others could be challenging for her. Despite her limitations, she had a bright mind and a kind heart. She loved making friends, but making friends was not always easy. From the moment she entered the school, she could feel the stares. Some children whispered, some laughed behind her back, and some were blunt with cruel comments. Teachers sometimes noticed, sometimes didn't. She had learned to keep her head down, to avoid trouble, and to hope the day would pass without anyone being too harsh. But lately, the bullying had started to get worse. It began with small things at first. Her books would be misplaced in class, or someone would snicker as she tried to navigate the crowded hallways. Sometimes, she would hear whispers like, "Why does she even bother coming?" Or, "Look at her. She's so slow." She tried to ignore them, telling herself that they didn't matter, that she was stronger than their words. But every day it seemed harder to feel that way. Recess was the worst. While other children ran and played freely, she had to struggle to move around, and some of the older kids took advantage of that. They would block her path, laugh as she tried to pass, or make snide remarks that were meant to humiliate her. Even when she asked them to stop, they would just laugh louder, pushing her to feel smaller and weaker. Her parents had always told her that she was special, that her disability didn't define her, and that she had a heart full of courage. They encouraged her to stand up for herself, to seek help when needed, and to never let anyone make her feel less than she was. But she often felt alone in the moment. It was hard to remember those words when the pain of daily teasing and exclusion pressed in on her. Inside her classroom, she tried to focus on her lessons, but it was never easy. Sometimes the bullies would interrupt her, trip her, or even hide her personal belongings. She learned to arrive early to get a good spot and try to stay close to the teacher, hoping that being visible would make the bullies think twice. Yet the fear never fully left her. One particular morning, the bullying reached a new level. As she wheeled into the hallway, a group of kids cornered her. They shoved her walker slightly, laughing as she tried to steady herself. One of them whispered something cruel under their breath, and she felt her face burn with humiliation. She wished the ground would swallow her whole. Seemed like no one cared or even noticed. Teachers were busy with other students, and the hall was filled with echoes of laughter from those who were too scared to intervene. Despite all this, she had a small circle of classmates who treated her kindly. They didn't speak up much, but they offered silent support, saving her a seat, helping her pick up her dropped books, or just giving a reassuring smile. These little acts reminded her that not everyone was cruel, and that there was some kindness in the world. Kept her going, even on the hardest days. She also had moments of quiet defiance. In art class, she could escape into her own world, painting and drawing things that no one could take away from her. She expressed her feelings through her creations, whether it was a bright scene of hope or a darker one showing her frustrations. Her art teacher noticed her talent and encouraged her to keep going, praising her determination and creativity. Those small words of encouragement meant everything to her, giving her strength to face the world outside the art room. Lunch periods were challenging as well. She would often find herself alone at the cafeteria table, careful to avoid bumping into anyone or spilling her food. Sometimes, a few classmates would invite her to sit with them, and those moments brought her genuine happiness. But more often than not, she felt invisible or the target of quiet mockery. Every day was a delicate balance between courage and fear. Back home, she would share bits of her day with her parents. Sometimes she would hide the worst moments, not wanting them to worry. Other times, tears would flow freely as she recounted the bullying, her parents comforting her, telling her stories of resilience and reminding her of her worth. They reminded her that her value was not measured by what others said or did. They emphasized that her heart, intelligence, and courage mattered most, and that someday, the world would recognize her for these qualities. At night, lying in bed, she would think about the next day. Would the bullies be waiting again? Would she have the strength to face them? She often felt a mix of fear and determination. She wanted to be brave, even when her body and spirit felt tired. Sometimes, she would imagine herself standing tall, walking through the hallways with confidence, unaffected by the laughter or cruel remarks. That image became her small secret hope, her inner shield against the relentless teasing. Her life at school was a series of challenges, each day testing her patience, courage, and resilience. She knew that she couldn't control the bullies, couldn't make them stop being cruel overnight, but she could control her reactions, her spirit, and her determination to keep moving forward. Even when everything felt heavy, she reminded herself that she had survived every day so far, and she could survive one more. Slowly, she was learning to find her own strength in a world that often seemed determined to test it. Little did she know, a new presence at the school, someone courageous and strong, was about to enter her life. Someone who would change everything. Someone who would help her realize that she didn't have to face the bullies alone. This person's arrival was still a few days away, but the hope of that change, even unknowingly, was already beginning to stir inside her, giving her a tiny spark of courage in her heart, enough to carry her through one more day. The days after that morning seemed to blur together, each one heavier than the last. The disabled girl tried to focus on her lessons, her art, and her small joys, but the bullying followed her everywhere. It had grown bolder, more public, and harder to ignore. The whispers turned into snickers, the snickers into laughter, and the laughter into mean comments that pierced her heart. Sometimes it was verbal, sometimes it was small physical acts like tripping her walker or nudging her books off the table. It felt like the bullies were always waiting for a chance to make her feel small, powerless, and isolated. In the hallways, they would block her path, forcing her to wait or find a longer route. Some students joined in by pointing and laughing, while others simply watched, unsure of what to do. Teachers were present, but in the chaos of a crowded school, many moments slipped by unnoticed. She learned quickly to be cautious, to move with care, and to avoid drawing attention to herself. Every day required planning, patience, and resilience just to survive. During classes, she kept her head down, worked diligently on her assignments, and tried to avoid confrontation. Even her favorite classes were tinged with tension. She enjoyed math and literature, and her teachers praised her dedication, but the bullies didn't care about her efforts or talents. They focused solely on making her feel uncomfortable, reminding her that she was different, that she was vulnerable, and that she could not escape their cruelty. Lunchtimes became especially challenging. The cafeteria, filled with laughter and chatter, felt like a minefield. She tried to sit in quiet corners or with friends who were kind to her, but even there, whispers and stares found her. One day, someone knocked her tray over while she was moving to a table, and food spilled across the floor. The room erupted with laughter, and though some students offered help, most just watched, entertained by her misfortune. It was a daily battle, balancing her need to participate in normal activities with the fear of being targeted. Even the art room, her safe haven, was not completely free from the shadow of bullying. Sometimes, someone would sneak in to make a comment or disrupt her space. Yet, in this room, she could channel her feelings into her creations. Painting and drawing became a form of therapy, a way to process her emotions, and a silent rebellion against the cruelty outside. She drew pictures of bravery, of people standing up for one another, and of a world where she felt safe and included. These images gave her hope and strength, even when the real world felt harsh. Her emotional health suffered alongside the physical challenges. Sleep often eluded her, and when she did manage to rest, nightmares of being chased, laughed at, or trapped haunted her dreams. She felt isolated, unsure if she would ever truly belong at school. Even with her parents' love and encouragement, the school environment made her question her worth. She longed for someone to notice her pain, to stand up for her, and to make the bullying stop. The bullies themselves were relentless. They were not always the same group. Sometimes it changed with the day, but the intent was the same, to intimidate, embarrass, and assert dominance. They found joy in her discomfort and often planned their actions carefully. One day, They tied a small sign to her walker with a mocking message, laughing as she struggled to untangle it. On another occasion, they hid her notebooks in a locker, forcing her to ask for help in front of a crowded hallway. Each act chipped away at her confidence, making her question if anyone would ever stand with her. Despite the constant pressure, there were flickers of kindness that kept her moving forward. A few classmates would quietly help her pick up dropped books, share lunch, or offer a reassuring smile. Their small gestures reminded her that not everyone was cruel, and that there were people in the school who valued her for who she was, not for what made her different. These moments, though brief, were powerful. They were reminders that courage and compassion could exist even in difficult places. Her parents noticed the change in her mood and behavior. She would come home quieter than usual, hesitant to speak about the day. When she did share, it was often with tears and trembling hands. Her parents comforted her, shared stories of resilience, and reminded her of her strength. They emphasized that she had done nothing wrong and that the bullies' actions reflected their own insecurities, not her worth. Their words were a balm, but they could not shield her from the harsh reality she faced daily. In class discussions, she often stayed silent, too afraid to draw attention to herself. Participation felt risky, and yet she longed to contribute. Her teachers sometimes noticed her hesitation, encouraging her gently, praising her efforts, and acknowledging her intelligence. These affirmations were small victories, moments of validation that strengthened her resolve. Each compliment, each recognition of her effort, became a stepping stone in building her courage. One afternoon, during a particularly rough day, the bullying escalated to a point that left her feeling completely overwhelmed. In the hallway, a group of students blocked her path and made mocking gestures. They whispered cruel words, and one of them tried to push her walker. Fear gripped her, and she froze, unsure of what to do. In that moment, it felt as if the walls were closing in, and she wished desperately for someone to intervene, for someone to remind her that she was not alone. Her heart raced, and tears blurred her vision. She felt trapped, vulnerable, and invisible, but at the same time, a tiny spark of defiance burned inside her. She reminded herself of the moments in art class, of her parents' encouragement, and of the few classmates who quietly supported her. That spark was small, fragile, but it was enough to keep her moving forward, to keep her from giving in to despair. She took a deep breath, steadied herself, and slowly navigated past the bullies, holding on to the hope that change could come. By the end of that day, she was exhausted but not defeated. She had survived another round of bullying, another test of her patience and courage. She returned home, leaning on her parents for comfort and sharing fragments of her day. They reminded her that each day she endured, each act of resilience, was a victory. They praised her bravery, her determination, and her heart. Unbeknownst to her, the events of that week were building toward a turning point. Someone was about to notice her struggles, someone with courage and strength, someone who would step in and alter the course of her daily life. The anticipation of change was not yet known to her, but the universe was quietly setting the stage. For now, she carried on, facing each day with a mix of fear, determination, and the faint hope that her courage would soon be met with support, and that the relentless bullying could one day come to an end. The morning sun filled the school hallways, but it did little to ease the tension she felt inside. Another day began, and with it came the same uncertainty and fear she had grown used to. She carefully navigated through the crowded corridors, her hands gripping the walker tightly, anticipating the cruel stares and whispers that often awaited her. Each step required courage, each movement a small act of defiance against the constant bullying. That day, something felt different. While she moved through the familiar chaos of students, she noticed someone watching from across the hallway. It was a student she had seen before but had not interacted with. He had an air of quiet confidence, a presence that seemed to command attention without needing to raise his voice. He noticed the subtle ways the bullies targeted her, the small acts of cruelty that others might have overlooked. There was a seriousness in his gaze, a sense that he would not stand by idly. She continued to her classroom, hoping to avoid attention, But the usual group of bullies had already spotted her. They started whispering and snickering, clearly preparing to corner her during the transition between classes. Her heart pounded in her chest, and a wave of panic threatened to take over. She felt trapped, unsure of how to navigate the impending confrontation. Every instinct told her to hide, to move quickly and quietly, and to hope that no one noticed her struggle. Just as the bullies began to close in, the black student stepped forward. His presence was immediate and commanding. He positioned himself between her and the group, blocking their path with a calm, steady confidence. The bullies hesitated, caught off guard by the sudden intervention. The moment was tense, the hallway seeming to hold its breath as he addressed them in a clear, firm voice, demanding that they stop. His tone was assertive but not aggressive, a balance of authority and reason that made it clear he would not allow the bullying to continue. The bullies were stunned. They had grown used to their targets cowering, to their cruelty being met with silence or helplessness. This was different. This student was not intimidated, not swayed by their attempts at dominance. He was a force of calm strength, and in that moment the dynamic shifted. The bullies muttered under their breath and eventually backed away, unwilling to escalate the confrontation further. The hallway, once filled with tension, seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. She looked at him, her eyes wide with a mixture of surprise, gratitude, and disbelief. Someone had finally stood up for her, someone who saw her struggle and chose to act. It was a feeling she had not experienced before, a sense of safety and validation that had been missing from her daily life. She felt a wave of relief wash over her, accompanied by a new sense of hope. Maybe she was not as alone as she had thought. The student smiled reassuringly, a simple gesture that carried weight far beyond words. He introduced himself in a quiet, friendly manner, making it clear that he was there to support her, not to draw attention or make a scene. His approach was thoughtful and compassionate, acknowledging her feelings without making her feel exposed or embarrassed. It was a delicate balance, and he managed it perfectly. As the day continued, he stayed nearby, offering subtle support. In class, he would quietly sit near her, ensuring she was not isolated or left vulnerable. During lunch, he invited her to join his group, a small circle of students who were kind and respectful. These gestures, though simple, had a profound impact. She began to feel included, seen, and respected, emotions that had been rare in her school experience. The presence of this student changed the atmosphere, not just for her but for the way others perceived her. Over the next few days, his support became consistent. Whenever the bullies tried to intimidate her, he was there, standing firm, ready to intervene. He did not seek recognition or praise. His actions were driven purely by a desire to protect and support someone in need. This consistency was powerful, gradually shifting the balance of power at school. The bullies, once emboldened by her vulnerability, began to lose confidence in their actions. Their cruelty was met with resistance, and for the first time they faced consequences for their behavior. The disabled girl found herself slowly opening up, sharing small details about her day, her challenges, and her interests. She spoke about her love for art, her favorite books, and the dreams she held close to her heart. The black student listened attentively, offering encouragement and understanding. This connection, built on respect and empathy, became a source of strength for her. She realized that having someone who truly cared made a difference in how she perceived herself and her place in the school. Their friendship began to influence others as well. Some classmates, inspired by his example, started to offer support in their own ways. They helped her navigate the hallways, offered to carry materials when needed, and defended her when minor acts of bullying occurred. The presence of allies, even in small numbers, made the school feel slightly less intimidating. The environment did not change overnight, but the cracks in the pattern of cruelty were visible, signaling the beginning of a shift. Despite this newfound support, she still faced challenges. There were moments when fear and anxiety returned, when the memories of past bullying threatened to overwhelm her. However, the black student's consistent presence offered reassurance. He reminded her, through actions rather than words, that she did not have to face these challenges alone. Slowly, she began to internalize this message, finding courage in the knowledge that someone was watching out for her, someone who believed in her worth. One afternoon, a particularly tense incident occurred in the hallway. The bullies tried a coordinated attempt to corner her and make her feel powerless. This time, however, the black student was prepared. He positioned himself strategically, calmly addressing each student involved and asserting that such behavior was unacceptable. The confrontation was brief but effective, and the bullies retreated, leaving her unharmed. The sense of relief she felt was immense, and it reinforced the power of standing up to cruelty with courage and confidence. That evening, she reflected on the events of the day. The fear that had dominated her mornings now felt less overwhelming. She realized that support could come from unexpected places, that bravery did not always require loud or dramatic actions, and that small, consistent acts of courage could change the course of her life. She felt a mixture of gratitude, hope, and determination, knowing that she was not powerless, that she had allies, and that the world could hold moments of kindness even in the midst of difficulty. Her parents noticed a subtle change as well. She shared stories of the black student, of the ways he had helped her, and of the small victories she experienced each day. They were overjoyed to see her confidence growing, to see her beginning to feel safer and more supported. Their pride in her resilience was matched by their appreciation for the student who had stepped in when it mattered most. They encouraged her to continue embracing these moments, to learn from the experience, and to carry the lessons of courage and empathy into the future. In the weeks that followed, the atmosphere at school gradually shifted. The disabled girl found herself moving through the hallways with a bit more confidence, speaking up in class more often, and participating in activities she had previously avoided. The bullies, faced with resistance and the growing support around her, began to lose momentum. The presence of someone willing to stand up for what was right sent a message that cruelty would no longer go unchecked. It was not a complete transformation, but it was a significant change, and it offered hope that the worst days were beginning to fade. The black student's impact extended beyond the immediate protection he offered. He became a role model, demonstrating the importance of empathy, courage, and standing up for others. His actions inspired not only the disabled girl but also other students who had witnessed his interventions. Slowly, a culture of support and kindness began to take root, challenging the previous environment of fear and intimidation. The change was subtle but meaningful, a testament to the power of one person's courage to influence an entire community. The disabled girl continued to face challenges, as she always would, but the presence of a true ally made those challenges more manageable. She began to believe in her own strength, to see herself as someone capable of overcoming obstacles, and to trust that the world could offer moments of kindness and protection. Each day brought new opportunities to grow, to learn, and to experience the support of those who genuinely cared. As the story of her struggle and resilience unfolded, it became clear that change was possible. With the intervention of someone willing to act, with the courage to stand up against cruelty, and with the small but powerful acts of support from others, the trajectory of her daily life began to shift. She was no longer alone, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of safety, hope, and possibility that had seemed out of reach. The arrival of this ally marked the beginning of a new chapter, one in which courage and kindness could make a real difference in her life. Days turned into weeks, and the atmosphere around the disabled girl began to shift in small but noticeable ways. The black student's constant support had started to change how others treated her. The bullies, once bold and fearless, became hesitant. They realized that their usual tactics were no longer effective and that someone was watching, someone who would not allow them to continue their cruelty unchecked. Their laughter and whispers still existed, but they lacked the same confidence, the same power over her that they once had. Inside the classroom, the girl found herself participating more. She raised her hand during lessons, sharing answers and thoughts that had previously remained in her mind. Her teachers noticed the change and praised her efforts, reinforcing the newfound sense of confidence that was growing within her. The support she received from her ally gave her courage to express herself, to contribute, and to feel valued. It was a turning point, a moment where her strength began to match her determination to face the world around her. Recess, which had always been a source of anxiety, started to feel slightly less intimidating. The black student stayed nearby, not in an overbearing way, but as a reassuring presence. He intervened only when necessary, allowing her to navigate the playground while knowing she had protection if needed. Other students began to notice his example. Some reached out with small acts of kindness, whether it was saving her a swing, helping her carry materials, or simply sitting near her during lunch. Slowly, the circle of support grew, creating an environment where she felt less isolated and more included. One particular day, a tense moment arose in the hallway. A group of bullies tried to corner her during a busy transition period. Her heart raced, fear gripping her as she anticipated the usual humiliation. But this time it was different. The black student was ready, standing firmly between her and the bullies. His calm authority diffused the tension immediately. He addressed the bullies clearly and firmly, asserting that their behavior was unacceptable. The confrontation lasted only a moment, but it sent a message. The balance of power had shifted, and the bullies understood that their actions would no longer go unchallenged. The disabled girl felt a sense of relief she had never known before. The fear that had dominated her days was now tempered by safety and support. She began to recognize her own courage, realizing that she could face challenges with resilience. The presence of someone willing to stand with her, to defend her, and to inspire respect from others made a profound difference. She began to move through the school with more confidence, her steps lighter, her spirit stronger. Her parents noticed the change as well. She came home with stories of small victories, moments where someone had offered support, or where she had successfully stood up for herself. The pride and joy in her parents' eyes reinforced her sense of accomplishment. They reminded her that each small step mattered, that resilience and courage were built through consistent action, and that she had already achieved so much by surviving and thriving despite the challenges. The turning point extended beyond the immediate protection she received. The black student's example inspired others to act with empathy and courage. Students who had previously remained silent began to speak up when they witnessed acts of bullying. They intervened in subtle ways, offering assistance, kind words, or simply standing by her side. The ripple effect of one person's bravery created a community of support that gradually transformed the school environment. It was not a complete solution, but it was a significant step toward fostering respect, empathy, and understanding among peers. During class projects and group activities, she began to contribute more actively. Her ideas were valued, her participation encouraged, and her talents recognized. The sense of inclusion and respect reinforced her self-esteem, allowing her to focus on learning and personal growth rather than constantly defending herself against ridicule. Each successful interaction, each moment of recognition, became a building block in her journey toward confidence and self-assurance. Outside the classroom, she also began to enjoy moments of normalcy that had previously seemed unattainable. Lunches with friends, shared projects, and playground interactions no longer carried the same weight of fear. She discovered that support and kindness could coexist with challenges, and that courage was not only about facing bullies, but also about embracing opportunities for growth and connection. The transformation was gradual, but it was undeniable. The black student continued to offer guidance in subtle ways. He did not seek praise or acknowledgement, focusing instead on creating an environment where she could feel safe and empowered. His actions demonstrated the importance of consistent, thoughtful support, showing that true courage is often quiet but impactful. Through his example, she learned that standing up for others is not only about confronting wrongdoing, but also about fostering trust, empathy, and empowerment. One afternoon, the school announced a special event, a visit from a prominent figure who had a connection to the student community. Rumors circulated about a wealthy and influential individual who would be attending, though the details were unclear. The excitement among students was palpable, and the disabled girl felt a mixture of curiosity and nervous anticipation. She had learned that life could change in unexpected ways, and she wondered what this new development might mean for her and the people who had supported her. The days leading up to the visit were filled with preparation and anticipation. Teachers encouraged students to showcase their work, projects were polished, and the school buzzed with energy. For her, the excitement was tempered by cautious optimism. She had learned to navigate challenges, to find courage in the presence of support, and to recognize the value of resilience. She approached each day with a growing sense of empowerment, ready to face whatever came next. When the day of the visit finally arrived, the disabled girl found herself reflecting on how far she had come. The fear that had once dominated her mornings had been replaced by cautious confidence. She could navigate the hallways, participate in class, and engage with her peers without constant anxiety. The presence of allies, the example of courage, and the growing circle of support had transformed her experience. She realized that change was possible, that challenges could be overcome, and that hope could flourish even in difficult circumstances. The turning point in her journey was not a single moment but a series of small victories, acts of courage, and gestures of kindness. Each interaction, each moment of support, contributed to a shift in the school's environment. She began to see herself not as a target of cruelty but as a young individual capable of resilience, deserving of respect, and capable of forming meaningful connections. The transformation was profound, affecting her self-perception, her interactions with others, and her overall outlook on life. Her parents continued to provide encouragement, celebrating each success, no matter how small. They reminded her that her experiences had shaped her strength, that her courage had inspired others, and that the journey of personal growth was ongoing. Their support, combined with the guidance of the Black student, created a foundation of trust, empowerment, and hope. As the visit from the prominent individual approached, anticipation mixed with excitement. The disabled girl understood that life could bring unexpected opportunities and challenges, and she felt ready to embrace them. She had faced fear, overcome obstacles, and learned the value of support, courage, and empathy. These lessons had prepared her for the changes ahead, including the arrival of someone influential who could further impact her life and the lives of those around her. The turning point had not erased the difficulties she faced, but it had shifted her perspective. She recognized that courage was not the absence of fear but the ability to act despite it. She understood that support could come from unexpected places, and that kindness and empathy could change the trajectory of someone's life. The days of fear and isolation had given way to a sense of empowerment, hope, and resilience, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her journey. The day had finally arrived when the school buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Rumors had been circulating all week about the arrival of a prominent and wealthy visitor, and students could barely focus on their classes. Whispers and speculation filled the hallways, each rumor more elaborate than the last. The disabled girl felt a mixture of curiosity, nervousness, and cautious excitement. She had grown used to unexpected changes, but this one felt different, almost like the start of something important. As she navigated the crowded hallways, the Black student stayed close, offering reassuring support without overwhelming her. His presence was calming, and she found comfort in knowing that she was not alone amidst the chaos of the school's anticipation. The two of them moved together, quietly observing the flurry of preparations and the excitement that seemed to ripple through every corner of the building. She could feel her heart racing with curiosity and nervousness, a different kind of tension than she had known before. Outside, the school grounds were meticulously prepared for the arrival. Teachers coordinated with staff, students rehearsed small performances, and decorations were carefully arranged. The energy was electric, a mixture of pride, excitement, and expectation. She watched from a safe distance, absorbing the sights and sounds, feeling the significance of the moment. Something big was about to happen, something that might change the course of her life in ways she could not yet imagine. Then, in the distance, a sleek, shiny jet appeared, descending gracefully toward the school's landing area. Its engines hummed with power and precision, capturing the attention of everyone present. Students pressed their faces against windows, teachers pointed excitedly, and a hush fell over the crowd as the jet came to a smooth stop. The sight was breathtaking, a symbol of wealth, influence, and the arrival of someone important. For the disabled girl, it was a moment that felt almost surreal, like a scene from a story she had only ever imagined in her mind. The black student gently guided her closer, ensuring she had a clear view of the jet without being lost in the crowd. He whispered encouraging words, reminding her to stay calm and enjoy the moment. She felt a mixture of awe and nervousness, her heart beating quickly as she watched the steps being prepared for the arrival. The atmosphere was filled with anticipation, a blend of curiosity, excitement, and wonder. When the doors of the jet opened, a figure emerged, moving with confidence and presence. The billionaire, as he was later identified, walked steadily down the steps, acknowledging the crowd with polite gestures. His arrival brought a new energy to the school grounds, a sense that something significant was about to unfold. Teachers and students alike were captivated, their attention fully focused on the visitor who had flown in on the impressive private jet. As the billionaire reached the school's entrance, he was greeted by administrators and staff. The disabled girl watched intently, her eyes wide with interest. There was something about the moment that felt larger than life, a convergence of anticipation, courage, and opportunity. She felt the impact of the event not just as an observer but as someone whose life might soon be touched by this arrival. The magnitude of the situation made her feel small and significant at the same time, a unique mixture of emotions that she struggled to fully understand. The black student subtly positioned himself nearby, ensuring she was not overwhelmed by the crowd or the excitement. He offered quiet reassurances, helping her navigate through the throng of students and teachers eager to witness the event. She felt protected and supported, a sense that had been absent from her daily school life until his consistent presence had begun to change everything. The combination of his guidance and the extraordinary event before her created a moment of clarity and reflection, highlighting the journey she had endured and the strength she had developed. As the billionaire toured the school, he was informed about various programs, student projects, and initiatives aimed at fostering growth and learning. Teachers spoke of the achievements of their students, and she listened with growing curiosity. She could not help but think about how her own journey, from being targeted and bullied to finding support and courage, might intersect with this moment of influence and opportunity. The presence of someone with resources and power suddenly made the possibilities feel real and attainable. The disabled girl caught glimpses of the black student explaining aspects of the school's initiatives. Noting the positive impact of student involvement and mentorship, she realized that the changes in her environment, the support she had received, and the courage she had developed had not gone unnoticed. The visitor was attentive, asking questions and expressing interest in the student's experiences. It was clear that he valued stories of resilience and bravery, qualities that she had embodied in her daily life, even if quietly and without recognition until now. In a brief but powerful moment, the billionaire was introduced to her and the black student. Their presence together, the one who had intervened and the one who had been protected, created a scene that highlighted courage, empathy, and support. The billionaire listened intently as the black student recounted moments of intervention and the ways in which kindness and courage had made a difference in her life. Her heart swelled with a mixture of pride, gratitude, and nervous excitement. For the first time, she felt that her experiences, her struggles, and her resilience were being acknowledged on a larger stage. In the days following the billionaire's visit, the disabled girl noticed a change in herself and in her environment. The experience had left her with a renewed sense of confidence, purpose, and hope. She moved through the school with a little more courage, a little more determination, and a deeper understanding that support and kindness could change lives. Her perspective had shifted, and she began to embrace opportunities with optimism she had not felt before. The black student remained a constant presence, guiding her, encouraging her, and demonstrating the ongoing importance of empathy and courage. Their friendship had grown stronger, rooted in trust, respect, and shared experiences. He continued to stand by her in moments of difficulty, offering support when needed, but also allowing her to navigate challenges independently. This balance of protection and empowerment gave her confidence in her own abilities, showing her that strength came from both courage and the support of those who truly cared. At school, the atmosphere began to reflect the positive changes she was experiencing. Bullies had lost their influence over her and over other students who had previously been targets. The culture of fear and intimidation slowly gave way to one of respect, inclusion, and encouragement. Students who had once stood by silently were now more willing to offer support and kindness, inspired by the examples of the black student and the larger message of courage and empathy emphasized during the Billionaire's visit. Teachers noticed her transformation as well. She participated more actively in lessons, shared her ideas confidently, and engaged in group activities with enthusiasm. Her achievements and contributions were recognized, and she began to feel valued for her abilities rather than judged for her differences. The encouragement and acknowledgement she received reinforced her self-esteem and motivated her to continue striving for personal growth and academic success. Outside of class, she began to enjoy social interactions in ways she had not before. Lunchtimes, once filled with anxiety, became opportunities to connect with peers. Playtime and school activities, previously sources of stress, became moments of engagement and enjoyment. The consistent presence of allies, combined with her own growing confidence, allowed her to experience the school environment more fully, without the constant fear and isolation that had defined her early days. The support from the black student extended beyond physical protection. He encouraged her to pursue her interests, to participate in projects and competitions, and to share her talents with others. He offered guidance and advice, helping her navigate challenges while emphasizing her strengths and potential. Through his mentorship, she learned valuable lessons about resilience, self-confidence, and the power of empathy, lessons that would stay with her long after she left school. The Billionaire's visit also had a lasting impact on the school community. Initiatives inspired by his commitment to recognizing courage and resilience were implemented, creating opportunities for students to develop leadership skills, showcase talents, and participate in programs designed to encourage personal growth and social responsibility. The disabled girl found herself involved in several of these programs, her participation a testament to the journey she had undertaken and the strength she had cultivated. One of the most significant changes was the increased awareness and response to bullying. Policies were strengthened, teachers were more vigilant, and students were encouraged to speak up and support one another. The disabled girl, once a target of relentless bullying, became a symbol of resilience and empowerment. Her story, her courage, and the support she had received served as inspiration for others, demonstrating that even the most challenging circumstances could be overcome with determination, empathy, and allyship. She also found herself mentoring younger students who faced challenges similar to those she had once endured. Sharing her experiences, offering guidance, and providing encouragement allowed her to give back to the community that had supported her. These moments reinforced her sense of purpose, illustrating the power of empathy and the importance of standing up for others. Through her actions, she became a source of hope and inspiration, showing that courage and kindness could create meaningful change. Her relationship with the black student remained a cornerstone of her growth. Together, they navigated challenges, celebrated successes, and inspired those around them. Their collaboration demonstrated the impact of partnership, support, and shared values. The trust and respect between them allowed both to grow as individuals while contributing to a more inclusive and compassionate school environment. Their story became a powerful example of how courage and empathy could transform lives and influence communities. At home, her parents witnessed the transformation in their daughter with pride and admiration. They saw her confidence, resilience, and joy flourish in ways that had once seemed impossible. Their support and guidance, combined with the mentorship of the black student and the recognition from the Billionaire's visit, had created a foundation for her ongoing growth and success. They celebrated her achievements, encouraged her ambitions, and reinforced the lessons of courage, empathy, and determination that had guided her journey. As the school year progressed, she continued to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. She participated in art exhibitions, group projects, and school events, her talents recognized and appreciated by peers and teachers alike. The bullying that had once dominated her life became a distant memory, replaced by empowerment, support, and a sense of belonging. She learned that challenges could be overcome, that courage was strengthened through action, and that support from others could amplify personal growth. The disabled girl's journey became a story of hope and inspiration for the entire school community. Her experiences highlighted the transformative power of courage, empathy, and allyship. Through the support of the Black student, the recognition from the Billionaire, and the encouragement from teachers and peers, she had overcome obstacles that had once seemed insurmountable. Her story served as a reminder that even in the face of adversity, resilience, determination, and the support of others could create profound change. By the end of the school year, she had not only survived but thrived. Her confidence, self-esteem, and sense of purpose were stronger than ever. She had learned the importance of standing up for herself and others, the value of kindness and empathy, and the impact that courage could have on individuals and communities. Her journey from fear and isolation to empowerment and recognition illustrated the enduring strength of the human spirit. In the final moments of the school year, she reflected on the experiences that had shaped her journey. From the early days of bullying and fear to the consistent support of the Black student and the transformative recognition from the Billionaire's visit, each step had contributed to her growth. She realized that challenges could be overcome, that courage could inspire change, and that empathy and support could create a world where everyone had the opportunity to thrive. Her story concluded not with an ending, but with a beginning. The lessons she had learned, the confidence she had gained, and the relationships she had built formed the foundation for a future filled with possibility. She understood that life would continue to present challenges, but she also knew that she had the strength, courage, and support to face them. Her journey was a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of empathy, and the transformative impact of standing up for oneself and others.